What's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Tuesday, November 7th. Dan Kasper Show up on the air. Radio dials. You got a couple of those at 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Available online, sportstalk1051.com. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, the app, and, of course, the video stream, which is up and rolling right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't think I need to tell you all what probably the main topic is going to be this morning. What we're going to be chatting about here. Yeah, I don't think I need to tee it up that much. The shocking news yesterday that Craig Counsell will be managing the Chicago Cubs, not the Brewers, not the Mets, not the Guardians, not even the Astros. It's the Cubs. The I-94 rivalry getting up to notch a little bit there. Shocking announcement. First, to kind of rewind it here a little bit in case you don't have the X or the Twitter and maybe you weren't following along, because I was in my office. I'm like, okay, it's coming down fast now. So I just was like following Twitter X feed and seeing everything. And, first you see Mets hired their manager, not Craig Counsell. It's like, okay. Cleveland earlier in the day hired Stephen Vogt. And it's like, okay, so it's those two teams and the Brewers. Those were the only three that were attached with Craig Counsell. So process of elimination, you're thinking, okay, is it the Brewers? And no, Ken Rosenthal comes out. Well, first of all, it was Jeff Passan that said, there's growing chatter that Counsell won't be with the Brewers. And then Ken Rosenthal said, Counsell will manage, but it won't be with the Brewers. It's going to be with the team that already has a manager. And it's like, oh gosh, who it is? And everybody, I was one of them. I was texting Brandon. It's like, dude, what do you think? We both said, Yankees, Boston, maybe. No, he's going to the Cubs, going a little bit 90 miles south down there, which I think was a jaw-dropping thing for a lot of people. But what does that also tell you too? What does that also tell you? It tells you that not all the insiders know everything, right? Not all the insiders know everything. We didn't hear anything about the Cubs. It was all Mets. It was Brewers. It was Cleveland. Little chit-chat about Houston. Potentially didn't hear a lick about the Cubs. And I know it's because they already had a manager, but insiders don't know everything. Apparently, the sides met over the weekend. Apparently, the Cubs had reached out as soon as Craig Counsell's contract expired with the Brewers, and it was a place that apparently Counsell wanted to go to. So there you have it. How you feeling, Brewers fans? Counsell signing a massive, massive contract. 5 years, $40 million, easily makes him the highest paid manager in history, which we know from all the reports out there that Craig Counsell did want to reset the bar for managers out there. A lot of people assume maybe around $7 million. And nope, Cubs dropped the hammer. One report out there because now you find out more stuff after something becomes official, right? One of the reports out there was that the Brewers offered a Counsell at the end of the season, the one that was on the table that we chatted a little bit about yesterday, would have made him the highest paid manager in baseball. That was at $5.5 million per year. No, I haven't seen anywhere, haven't heard anywhere whether Counsell and his representation did go back to the Brewers with what the Cubs offered or not. And Mark Anasio, who chatted with the media last night, wouldn't answer that question outright. Just some of the comments, I guess, from Mark Anasio yesterday said that definitely not portrayed. I can't imagine though somebody wanting to be elsewhere. One of the comments though from Mark Anasio last night that I think everybody's kind of, really like, ooh, maybe kind of raised an eyebrow. Is he a little sour, a little disappointed, or anything like that? But he said, we've lost Craig. The reason we're here is we've lost Craig. But I've reflected on this. Craig has lost us and lost our community. It is what it is. I reflect on the fact that we've been successful now for a really long time. I think that's part of an enormous effort. We're ready to compete with anybody. Uh, Also saying I'm high on what we have. I can't imagine somebody wanting to be elsewhere, as I mentioned a little bit earlier there. And he was asked if the Brewers were willing to match the $8 million on average per year. He said we didn't come together at the end. Craig was definitely a key part of our success. But if I want to list all the reasons we've been successful, we would be on for another half an hour. We plan on winning with the next manager. Um, he also went on to say that he's reflected on the fact that he's hungry for more success. Apparently, reflected a lot yesterday because he dropped that quite a bit there. But he says he's hungry for more success. Well, what does that necessarily mean? This has now turned into quite the. I mean, we knew it was going to be an interesting offseason for the Brewers. It started off with the council one, but then with Brandon Woodruff potentially missing the whole year, Corbin Burns entering his final year, Willie Adames, guys entering their final years. Could it be a season of putting all the chips in the middle and going for it for 1 year? But now with this news on top of Brandon Woodruff potentially missing, I think it's going to be interesting to kind of follow what's going to happen this offseason. Do they still build around for a year around Corbin and Freddie and those guys, or do they start to, tear it down a little bit and go with a little bit more of a youth movement and bring in those young guys? I have no idea. But I think the first thing, obviously, is they got to find a manager. they got to go find a new manager now. I don't know who they're potentially looking at. I know there's names being floated out there. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's got a list. I mean, could they promote from within? Do they want to go a little bit of a younger route? You kind of wonder if they would have known about this maybe a little bit earlier. Would Stephen Votes have been a possibility for the Brewers there? But going to be interesting to see who they bring in. But in case you're wondering, when do the Brewers and Cubs play? Brewers visit the Cubs for a 3-game series starting on May 3rd. And then the Cubs come to Milwaukee Memorial Day for a 4-game series starting on May 27th. So, yeah, usually those tickets go up. I think they might go up just a little bit more. A little bit more. So, Tuesdays are a Grind My Gears Tuesday. However, we've big thanks to our good friends at Ray's Place. We are revamping Grind My Gears Tuesday to What's Your Beef, presented by Ray's Place. And we're looking for the best beefs, okay? Like best, still grinding my gears, still, just kind of venting here a little bit. Best one, though, one that I could say in the air, keep it clean. But best one, you can get a free famous hot beef or sandwich or ham sandwich from our good friends over at Ray's Place. Shout out Dave and Sandy over there. So starting that off today here. So start hitting me up with some texts. Okay, what's your beef? And I'm sure you got some surrounding this this decision, this move over here. Again, try to keep it clean so I can, say it on the air and such. But what are your thoughts on this? I'll be honest with you, I went through a wave of emotions yesterday. I saw a lot of people comparing it to Favre to the Vikings. A little different scenarios, obviously, little bit different, but that was kind of a main comparison for a lot of people, maybe more so for Wisconsin sports fans out there. But what was did you go through the stages of grief where, anger, acceptance, trying to rationalize everything? How you feeling now, almost 24 hours after the fact. I'll be honest with you. I went through the waves of emotion. So we're going to hit that up coming up here in just a little bit. Give you some time to send over your thoughts. Again, you can text it, tweet it, Facebook it, all that good stuff. We will throw a little football chat in here. Both Badgers and Green and Gold. Matt LaFleur chatted a little bit with media yesterday. Not a whole lot, but Christian Watson, so he avoided a concussion. Just kind of going through some of the again, didn't really learn a whole lot about injuries, but it doesn't sound too serious with Watson when he did leave that game there. So we'll chat a little Packers now that week 9 is officially in the books with the Chargers defeating the Jets last night. We're on to week 10, which includes a trip to Pittsburgh. So we'll chat a little green and gold coming up in the next hour. We've got Badger chat. Lots to discuss there with Mr. RJ Cardinal coming up in a couple hours from now. Badger football with that ugly loss to Indiana. We got to talk some Badger men's hockey. They continue to roll over there, so plenty to get to with some Badger chit chat with Mr. RJ coming up in a couple of hours from now. We'll hit that up. Bucks picked up a win last night against the Brooklyn Nets. 129 to 125. Again, maybe not exactly kind of the start, maybe a little bit too close for Bucks fans last night, but the Bucks eking it out with the victory. College hoops started last night. Men's side, Badgers going up against Arkansas State, dropping 105 points, 105 to 76 against Arkansas State. You had Chucky Hepburn leading the way for the Badgers with 20 points. A lot of talk about Chucky in the offseason this past year. Badgers just shooting 12 three-pointers last night. Just 12. They were 6 of 12 from three. 65% overall from the field. So we got I'm really excited to see this kid AJ Storr coming. He was a transfer from St. Joseph's over there, but he was a freshman, Big East, all Big East freshman team last year. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table there. And last night, because he is a Rockford, Illinois native, so moved a little bit closer to home there, right? But I'm excited to see this. St. John's. Did I say St. Joseph's? St. John's. I knew that didn't sound right. St. John's in the Big East. I got St. Joseph's on my mind for whatever reason, but St. John's. My apologies. But no, he dropped 15 points last night in his debut for the Badgers. He's a big guard, 6'7" guard. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table this year for the Badgers there too. So, but we'll talk a little bit about that too with RJ Cardinal, because coming up now for the Badgers, an early test in just a couple of days on Friday, going up against Tennessee. Tennessee ranked 9th right now in the country. So hoops fully underway in the college world here too. But let's get things going here this morning. We know what's on the leadoff. We're chatting a little Brewers with the news of Craig Counsell leaving the team, leaving his hometown team, not moving far, just a little south to the division rival Chicago Cubs. Brewers fans, your thoughts? And I know we've got a good chunk of Cubs fans too. So Cubs fans, what are your thoughts about moving on from David Ross, and forking over a ton of cash for Craig Counsell? So I'm curious to hear from both Brewers fans and Cubs fans on the move, or with this move. So start to hit me up with those texts, tweets, Facebook, comment on the video stream, whatever works for you. Try to keep it clean so I can relay it on the air there. Okay? We'll take a quick break. and I'm expecting a lot of thoughts. Better be. What's your beef, peeps? We'll hit it up in just a few minutes. This Friday, we'll be over at Hy-Vee doing the show live from 6 to 9 because Hy-Vee is doing their traditional Veterans Day breakfast, free Veterans Day breakfast for those who continue to serve. But 6A to 10A this Friday, stop on by, get your free breakfast. Also, 15% off any grocery purchase for veterans and active military members. We were there last year doing the show. It was a lot of fun and a lot of people stopping by. But Hy-Vee does a fantastic job with this, and I know this one, they want to do it right, and they always do it right over there for our veterans and for our active military members. So if you got some time for some breakfast, let Hy-Vee feed you, let them serve you. This Friday, we'll be over there from 6 to 9, and then shortly after, we'll be doing an episode of the Man Cave podcast. I'm going to try to see if we can set up in the new sports shop over there. If you haven't seen their sports shop, it's legit. Team swag, Brewers, Bucks, Packers, Badgers, even for some Vikings fans over there. Don't know if they're going to add some Cub stuff now because of this, but yeah, it's legit. Like, G-Man, there was like 7 like shirts and zip-ups that I wanted to walk out of there with, and I didn't want to get yelled at by my wife for, racking up the swag bill there. But it's legit, awesome stuff there. So I'm going to try to get set up to do the podcast over there too. So we've got a few texts to get to here with the council thing. We've got Benjamin saying he's Judas, he's Benedict Arnold. How could he betray his hometown team and go to the rival? Any other team besides maybe the Cardinals would have been okay, but not the Cubs. Not the Cubs. Got another person calling him Benedict Arnold as well. This is worse than Favre. This is from Josh over there. Peggy, Cubs fan here. Craig counts as the Cubs is stranger than fiction. What would be even more strange is Ross to the Brewers. Drew, had he picked any other team, I would have been sad, but I would understand. He's got the chance to go out and get paid. This just hurts. He went to the literal enemy, the only enemy Milwaukee has. All the years of taking a hodgepodge band of dudes and making them playoff contenders are out the window to me. I hope he stubs his big toe every day for the rest of his life. This one's from Jason. I personally thought he was a great manager and couldn't believe all the hate he got from Brewers fans. Just goes to show he was recognized in Major League Baseball as a great manager. Brandon's mom, I was wondering if Brandon's mom was going to chime in. Brandon's mom here. Well, anywhere else, cannot wish him success there. They say best manager, never won manager of the year, always second fiddle to someone else. Hope they egged his house last night, LOL. His dad is counsel is a traitor. My gut still feeling that punch in the feeling that gut punch in the gut. The boos will be louder than Winker pitch hitting again in Game 2. Have a great day. G-Man, Captain Council, what are you doing? I will not be getting a Council jersey this year. P.S. I like the new segment, What Your Beef? All right, those are just a few to come through here. Let me ask you this though: do you blame, or are you frustrated more with Council, or are you frustrated more with Mark Ananasio? Are you frustrated more with Brewers? Do you think Mark Ananasio? And to be fair, we don't know if Mark tried to match it, if he was given the opportunity to match it. I know we talked about it at the beginning. He was asked, Mark Ananasio was asked if he had the chance to match that deal, and he kind of sidestepped that. Didn't really answer the question there. So I don't know what the truth is there. Living a dream, Jeff. I can't be mad. I wish I had 8 million reasons for the next 5 years at my job. I was thinking about that, Jeff, too. Like, as a fan, I'm upset. I'm down. But in real life situation, putting myself in that perspective, kind of hard to turn down $40 million, right? And that for 8 million per year, that's kind of hard to turn down a little bit there. So I know I saw some polls on so, and I was kind of curious to see where fans would go with this thing with Council. Like, would they direct their anger towards him for going to a division rival? Because I feel like the majority of fans, from what I at least saw on socials and just kind of reading some of the comments and all that stuff, there's definitely more anger to Council than what he would have had if he would have gone to the Mets, if he would have gone to Houston, wherever. But the fact that it was the Cubs, there you got some more fans. You got people that kind of swayed over to not liking the decision whatsoever. But I saw some polls out there, and it's probably about 50-50, where a lot of people were upset with Mark Anasio on the Brewers ownership for not paying him. It was a lot of other. It was, again, the other side was Council going to a rival, a little bit down. Again, I don't know if the Cubs or if the Brewers had a chance to match it. That was a report yesterday that was out there, that one report said that, the Brewers were going to have a chance to match it. Don't know if that was true or not, because Anasio wouldn't really answer the question at the end of the day. It was interesting. I was reading John Heyman from the New York Post yesterday, and he was an advocate that the Mets had to go out there and spend and get Craig Counsell for the manager. He kind of changed his tune a little bit, saying he would not have paid Craig Counsell $8 million per year. And this is coming from the Mets side of things. Like, he said, if he kind of made the point that, just a little bit, and he said he's like president of the Craig Counsell fan club. He's a big believer in Craig Counsell, but he wouldn't have paid $8 million per year for Craig Counsell, even with the Mets, who have open checkbooks, open pocketbooks over there. So I guess that's the other part of the question. $8 million. $8 million per year. Is that too much for you? Because the number that was kind of being floated out there was 7. And I know some people are going to be like, $1 million doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Some it does. For Mark Anasio, it probably does compared to what Steve Cohen has out there. But it's weird. And I think it just caught a lot of people off guard. There was the Cubs. One, because Cubs didn't have an opening. And it's not to say we haven't seen it before. Cubs did this too with Joe Madden. Remember when Joe Madden became available? And then they brought him on when they already had a manager. Cubs have done this before. Teams have done this before. It's not out of the norm for teams to do this. But the fact that it's a Brewer manager, a Brewer guy, grew up in the organization, and all the stories, he is Mr. Brewer, to go to the Cubs, I think that's why a lot of people feel like it's fair. And I'll be honest with you, as from my fan side of things, yeah, I was upset. I was upset that it was the Cubs. I was down. I let my emotions get to me. I was frustrated yesterday. I'm still a little frustrated today that it had to be the Cubs. That he had to go to the Cubs. Now, I was reading some other stuff because, again, after stuff like this comes out, you start to hear more, news or reports and all that. And an interesting one here too, and that's why we never really know the full story. We hear these reports, we hear these rumors, we hear these insiders. But then there was another one yesterday where apparently Counsell was like lukewarm about going to the Mets. We kept hearing that, hey, him and his wife love New York. They really enjoy New York. They've got no problem living in New York. They're taking it serious. He's taking this, this interview serious. The this offer serious. He's all about. He's very interested in going to the Mets. Then it comes out yesterday. He really wanted to go to the Cubs, and he really didn't want the Mets to get into a bidding war so that they would up the price. It almost made it sound like that he wanted the Cubs, to get that deal done so that the Mets wouldn't give him an offer he couldn't refuse. You know what I mean? Give him an offer he can't refuse. And I'm just like, well, that was a complete 180 from just a few days ago to where, hey, him and his better half, him and his wife love New York, and he's taking this Mets thing serious. To where it's like, he didn't really want to go to it. Maybe he just kind of used it as a bargaining chip. Now I don't know. I mean, this is just pure speculation. But the whole thing about as soon as contract was over, expired for Counsell, Cubs were already courting him and talking to him and such. I got to imagine there was something like a little feeler beforehand. I'm not accusing anybody of tampering or anything like that, but I mean, come on, we've seen that in sports before. So we've seen that all over the place. But I don't know. It's kind of it's weird. It's just weird. So right now it's about 75%. Actually, I'm actually surprised on this. Just going with some of the texts here. I'm not going to read all of them because we've got quite a few coming through here. But I'd say it's about 70% directing they're more upset with Counsell. I know we got a couple of them saying $8 million. People need to face facts. Our owner, this is from Dave. Our owner doesn't have the pockets like the Mets and the Cubs. You don't like hearing it. You want your owner to spend money, but if he can't spend money that he doesn't have, what the heck do you expect him to do? Okay, that's one side of it over there. That's true. Mark Anasio doesn't have as much money as Steve Cohen and all those other guys and such. And I'm sure, $8 million he would have spent for Counsell there. $8 million per year. If he would, that probably takes away from the payroll a little bit. Now, I'm going to bring this quote up. And for everybody blaming Mark Anasio, does it change your tune a little bit? Does it kind of maybe give you a glimpse that Craig Counsell was looking to leave before this? This was from Mark Anasio's Zoom call yesterday. Mark said Counsell told him in early September that he'd shifted towards wanting to manage in 2024 instead of taking a year off, including to possibly manage away from Milwaukee. So Counsell approached or talked to Mark Anasio about the possibility of managing elsewhere. So at least it sounds like it was on the mind of Counsell to manage elsewhere. That's according to Mark Anasio. Now I know some fans they'll be all about nope. Still, that you already don't like Anasio. They already don't like ownership, so they're not going to believe anything that he says. They're not going to take it for granted. So we're not going to hear from Counsell until we're not going to hear from Counsell till next week. So I don't know what he has to say. I don't know if he really would acknowledge if he was looking to go elsewhere, but it kind of gives that impression that maybe he was looking elsewhere, maybe looking to move on. I don't know. I honestly don't know, and I don't know if we'll ever know the answer. If Counsell comes out next week, when he gets introduced by the Cubs, does he come out and say, "Yeah, I wanted to leave. I was looking for a different opportunity. Probably wasn't a real shot to go back to the Brewers. Does he come out and say that? Probably not. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Keep them coming. Hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We got a lot more to get to here. So what's your beef? Remember, what's your beef on this Tuesday? Let us know. Best one, you're going to get a free Ray's Play sandwich. Make it clean, though, so I can say it on the air, peeps. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity has an open house this Saturday. This Saturday on Veterans Day, it's the Veterans Day open house. You can take a peek at the school, the former Grace Lutheran School, that they're going to be converting into 11 apartments for unhoused veterans. 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you want to check it out, that's at, as we mentioned, the Grace Lutheran School there, 202 West Grand Avenue in Eau Claire. All are welcome to come by. You can view the school and the future plans. They'll have even some games for the kiddos and such. I'll be over there checking it out. But shout out to Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity that is doing some amazing stuff, amazing work in our area too. Plus, for Veterans Day, they've got Veterans Day sale at the Restore Friday and Saturday. 20% off for veterans over there too. So Friday store hours 9 a.m. to 5:30, Saturday 10 a.m. to 4:30. But hopefully we'll see you at the open house on Saturday. Again, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Got kind of an update on who potentially the Brewers are considering to replace Craig Counsell from Ken Rosenthal. Couple of those, or these are the names that he had tweeted out. Among those that the Brewers are considering to replace Craig Counsell, according to sources briefed on the club's thinking, Pat Murphy, the Brewers' current bench coach, Don Mattingly, who's with Toronto right now, former manager of the Dodgers and the Marlins, Joe Espada, the bench coach for Houston, Dodgers first base coach Clayton McCullough, Astros hitting coach Troy Snitker, and former Brewers second baseman Ricky Weeks. Ricky Weeks. He's with the organization. I think he just got a promotion. I think is he a special assistant to the general manager, which is similar to Counsell. Yeah, I think that's what Counsell was before he was named manager. Ricky, let me see. Ricky Week, where's it at? Okay, Brewers players, Ricky Weeks, or okay, yeah. All right, I'm trying to find exactly what he is, what his role is. I'm trying to read this through here, but it's gonna. Weeks has been promoted to special assistant to player development after spending his first 2 seasons in the front office as an assistant to player development. Okay, Ricky Weeks, new manager of the Brewers. Oh boy. So there's a name out there. What are your thoughts on that list, Brewers fans? Anybody jump out to you? Would you rather see the Brewers go with an experienced manager like a Don Mattingly, who's, been the main man, been a skipper for a couple ball clubs? One side was the Dodgers, who, spent a lot. Other side was the Marlins, who don't spend a lot. So he's seen both sides of the spectrum. Obviously, he had a long playing career with the Yankees. Is that somebody that jumps out to you? Would you like to have somebody within the organization already, like a Pat Murphy, who sounds like a lot of the players love and respect? Do you promote him, or do you go outside? Do you have it's almost like the Badgers, really. It's like somebody within the family. Or do you go with like a Ricky Weeks, who's obviously completely understands how the Brewers, work, how they kind of run things over there? A couple texts to get to here. This one is from Gregory. Gregory saying it sounds like that Counsell already had his eyes on leaving the organization. I don't understand why some fans are blaming the owner if Counsell had already decided in his mind that he was leaving. I don't know if that was it. Just kind of, if we take Mark Anacio's quote there, that Counsell had approached him about the possibility of him managing outside the organization. I don't know the full scope of that, but I mean, you make a point, Gregory, that yes, you make a good point that if Counsell already had it in his mindset that he was going elsewhere and he wanted to go elsewhere, there's not a whole lot the team or the owner can do to convince him. I mean, even if they matched it, if Counsell is like, it doesn't matter if it matches, I'm out of here. I don't know. It kind of maybe is similar to Davante Adams. The Davante Adams approach, where apparently, again, we have to base this all on tweets and reports and comments and rumors. We don't know the accurate story. We don't know what's true. So we're just basing this all off of, insiders, quote unquote, and reporters and such. But it maybe is kind of reminiscent to Devontae Adams a little bit, where apparently the Packers offered him a big contract. It might have been a little too late, but he would have been the highest paid receiver, but he still wanted out. He wanted to go elsewhere. Kind of the opposite. He wanted to go closer to home, in a sense. That's what kind of jumped out to me. Is it more of a Devontae sort of thing? Possibly. We got Council's kids both play baseball in the Big Ten. Great for him to stay close to home. He gave us great seasons with mediocre teams. He played with what he had. To me, he is still a great manager. Brewers don't pay players worth a dang. Do you think that they were going to pay the manager? If there's that much hate, let's go after Joe Madden or David Ross, who are very respectable coaches. I'm a Brewers fan and will be for life. Yes, it's a kick in the nuts to the franchise, but can't we all agree to disagree that one of the greats of the states decided to spread his wings and get the money that's deserved to him? Taking minor league clubs to major league playoffs is worth more than you hating on him. It's definitely a different vibe out here. And again, it's about 50-50 right now on where the frustration level is for a lot of Brewers fans out there. Is it more towards ownership, or is it more towards council? Like I think the insert, replace Cubs and put Mets or something out there, it would have been like, yeah, we get it. We get it. But the fact that it's a Cubs, it's a natural reaction from fans to be upset with Craig to go to a division rival. It's a natural response. Oh, the Cubs rivalry? Come on. You're going to not like Craig. If it was to the Mets or something, like, yeah, we get it. But the fact that it's a rival, a division rival, it's a natural response from some fans to be upset with Craig right now. Whether it's right or wrong, it's a natural response. It stings. It hurts a little bit. I brought up, this was just a little over a month ago, too. It was right after the Brewers had clinched their playoff spot this year. It was right after that. And there was an article written by Bob Nightingale, USA Today. And there was a quote in there from Craig Counsell that I thought of it immediately after the news dropped. But Counsell had this to say: "It's fun in our division, knowing that the Cubs and the Cardinals are spending more than us, and we're beating them. I think every competitor looks to have a chip on their shoulder, and that's what we do." And this was from Bob. "So let other teams empty their checkbooks on the free agent market and fill their roster with the biggest stars they can find, and essentially still lose to the Brewers." Right? I thought of that quote from Craig after the news broke yesterday about him joining the Cubs. So, yeah, interesting time. I think I already know what the reaction is going to be like when Craig gets to AmFam Field. I think sometimes we've seen players come and they get a nice ovation in their first appearance, and then they get booed, that sort of thing. I feel like there's going to be some more boos than cheers when Counsell shows up to AmFam Field at the end of May. So, all right, we'll finish up the first hour. Speaking of getting booed wherever they go, Morgan.
Yes, I'm used to it.
Yeah,
I can handle it. I'm not afraid. Hey, speaking of surprises, on your 1 to 5 surprise star scale, where were you yesterday when the news broke?
7.
Really?
Yeah.
So it really was kind of a...
Oh, not the Cubs. Not the Cubs.
What is there anything worse? Or is that about as bad as it can get?
That would be as bad as it can get.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you think he's going to move?
You can get it, understand it, but it's a division rival. It's the Cubs. Come on, man.
Okay.
As a fan, my fan reaction to it, I was upset. I was disappointed. I was sad. If you're not a fan and you take all that away, $40 million is a lot to say no to.
Right.
So,
So PR move, bad. Personal move, good.
yeah.
Now, where does it rank as a fan when like Favre went to Vikings?
That's a comparison a lot of people are throwing out there.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of just kind of that whole punch to the gut as a fan, but
I think it was because when Favre went to the Jets, I was okay,
Mhm.
whatever. But it was the Vikings, then I got really mad at
yeah,
Favre.
because it feels more personal.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you didn't run this by me. What are you
Mhm.
doing? You can't do this
it's
to
a
us.
natural response from fans. That's where, everybody's fighting each other right now too. So,
Well, we were going to turn it to another state as well, since Craig hopped and is going to another state. We're going to go back
you mean Greg now.
Oh.
He's thanks for the memories, Greg.
Okay, got it. Greg, it is
Just
then.
from the whole Brett thing, remember?
Let it go.
Yeah.
I'll let it go.
Yeah.
So if I give you a state slogan, where are we going to hop to? We're going to turn our back on Wisconsin and see how many of these you know across the union. If I was going to say, hey, Casper, let's pack bags and go to the Pine Tree State, what state is that?
Pine Tree? Is that in the Pacific Northwest?
Not.
What?
I know. It seems like it would be, but it's not.
South? East? Vermont?
Dude. Hints. No. You're on the right coast now, though, but it's not Vermont.
Maine?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would have thought lobster or something like that with Maine. But yeah. How about this? The Old Line State. I'll give you a hint. You're staying East Coast.
Lion? Like as
Line,
a roar?
Line.
Oh,
Old
my.
Line State. It's a state you kind of forget about. Like in the shuffle.
Delaware.
No, that's the first state, which is the only reason I never forget
Okay.
about it. And they have Dogfish Head Brewing, which is tasty.
Rhode Island.
No, but you're in the neighborhood.
Oh, jeez. Maryland?
Yes.
Okay.
Maryland.
Is it because I'm trying to think of the map like a straight line?
Yeah, that might be it.
Okay.
Okay. So 50 state slogans continuing. We're going to go to the Yellowhammer State. Take a swing at it.
Yellow Hammer?
Yellowhammer State. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
More familiar would be Roll Tide.
Oh, Alabama.
Right.
Okay.
Yellowhammer State. So slogans from there, the last frontier. That one's easy.
That's got to be like somewhere in the West.
Nope.
Texas.
Cold.
The last frontier.
The last frontier. Think about where very few people live. It's cold.
Alaska?
Yes, Alaska.
See, when you say that, I think of like cowboys and all that sort of stuff, like the Western frontier.
Okay, I'll give you a really easy one though. The Hoosier State.
Indiana.
Okay, there you go. See, now we're back on track. Hawkeye State.
Iowa.
Sunflower State.
Nebraska.
No, but Dorothy.
Kansas.
Yes.
Okay.
Kansas. See, easy enough. Speaking of sunflowers, when you're a ball player, you're a ball player. Are you a sunflower guy or you gum?
I'm more of a sunflower.
Okay.
Dill pickle.
Really? Your mouth doesn't get raw from those? The girls were eating up during softball season, the ranch ones.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Oh man, that puts a hurting on the roof of your mouth though after a while.
Yep, ranch and dill pickle.
Dill pickle, huh?
Yep.
All right, I'll remember that for the next season. Magnolia State starts with an M.
Like the flower.
Like the flower.
Georgia.
It starts with an M. You're way
starts
up.
with an M. I didn't hear that part. We got 10 seconds. Missouri.
Close. Mississippi. Mississippi.
All right.
I'll give you an easy one to end on. Cornhusker State.
Yeah, Nebraska.
There you go. Now it's right.
All right, here we go. Second hour kicking off right now. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in on this What's Your Beef? What's Your Beef Tuesday. Ray's Place. What's Your Beef Tuesday. All right. Coming up, we're going to switch gears here just for a little bit. We'll chat a little green and gold. Coming up next hour, we've got some Badger chat, football, hoops started last night. We got men's hockey continuing to roll. A lot of stuff to catch up on with the Badgers, with Mr. RJ Cardinal, too. So we'll get to that next hour. What's Your Beef? We're revamping the Grind My Gears to What's Your Beef, presented by our good friends over there at Ray's Place. Best beef, best vents. You're gonna get a sandwich. Spit it out, Dan. Sandwich from Ray's Place. Famous hot beef, hot ham over there too. So good stuff going on over there. So big thanks to Ray's Place for that. We got some good ones in the running right now. Well, we got some good ones in the running. So if you haven't had a chance to send us your beef, your vents, hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Let's kick off this morning here. Or I should say, let's kick off the second hour here. I'm getting sidetracked with all these texts coming in, so I got to minimize that. Let's do some sports nuggets of the day presented by Ansay Associates. Let's go with 1936. The New York Americans beat Toronto in the first coast-to-coast radio broadcast of a hockey game in Canada. We've got Bart Starr on this day in 1965 was sacked 11 times by the Detroit Lions. We've got Magic Johnson, 1991, announced that he had tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS and that he was retiring from basketball. 1999, Tiger Woods became the first golfer since Ben Hogan in 1953 to win 4 straight tournaments. Those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day brought to you by Ansay Associates. Let's catch up on a couple of texts here. Sean from Eau Claire, Cubs drastically overpaid. Council couldn't get it done when the games really counted. I'll still take the Brew Crew ahead of the, I don't know if this is supposed to say crappies in the division. Next year, Brewers need a bat and 2 starting pitchers. Council is a Coach of the Year candidate until late August and September every regular season. Then he and his teams fold under pressure. Josh, I put all this on Mark. He let him walk. He could have offered him what he was asking, but he didn't. Mark needs to sell the team. Big Worm, stop calling Council a traitor. And Benedict Arnold, he's not the person to blame. Here's my thought. I don't blame Council at all. This is 100% on our owner. Anastasio uses the team as a tax write-off. If you're Council, you 100% go to the Cubs. Cubs have a pile of money to get the right players that Council wants. Yes, I hate the Cubs like you all do, but it's a smart move for Council. If there's anyone to be ticked at Brewers fans, it's our owner. All right. Well, this is such a weird debate that I don't know if there's a good comparison to go with. You got fans that will blame the owner for not having enough money, or maybe thinking that he has more money than he's willing to spend, or the whole council. I don't know. It's very like all over the place for a lot of different people right now. For a lot of different people. So, boy, keep your thoughts coming though, because there is such a huge divide. Some people, and it's even such a really weird debate with the whole council thing. I don't know if there's like a middle line. People really either like him as a manager, really think he's a good manager. We've had a bunch of people saying, we had a texter earlier on saying this is proof that, the league, people around the league view him as a good manager. And who was the texter? I want to bring it back up. This was, this was from Jason. I personally thought he was a great manager and couldn't believe all the hate he got from Brewers fans. Just goes to show he was recognized in Major League Baseball as a great manager. But then we just had the other texter say, Sean from Eau Claire said, no, he's not, to kind of sum it up. There's like this weird divide between it. And I don't think there's a middle ground with this. So Mike from Myrtle Beach, very disappointed that council would try on purpose to stick it to the Cubs. He was trying to stick it to the owner of the Brewers. Not quite sure what you're referring to there, Mike. Not quite sure on that one. Yeah. Brandon's mom loves Weeks. Ricky Weeks. That would be an interesting name to throw out there as a possible manager for the Brewers. So I'll ask this again, Brewers fans. Would you like to have a experienced coach come in? Maybe somebody experienced a lot on the bench or on, like a Pat Murphy. He was an interim manager there for a hot minute with the Padres. He's filled in once in a while for the crew. You want somebody like that? You want somebody like a Don Mattingly who has a ton of experience as a manager to come in? Or you want to go a little bit maybe younger, maybe a little bit with the potential of the ceiling being higher? Do you want to find the next Greg Counsell? Guy who didn't really have any managing experience, spent a little time in the front office, was a player, kind of referring to a Ricky Weeks type of thing there. So do you like a guy like Ricky Weeks as being your manager, or a Murphy, or a Don Mattingly? Do you want somebody that's a quote unquote Brewer, or do you want somebody outside the organization to come in there? Saw this from, let me see if I can where did it go here? Who's it from? Buster Only. Yeah, Buster Only. The perceived value of managers has steadily declined in the sport, reflected in their collective salary stagnation. Craig Counsell, widely regarded as one of the best managers, had the opportunity to drive that ceiling upward, and as it turned out, his offer from the Cubs was almost 50% higher than that of the Brewers. The other thing too I had read on, and again, I don't know what's true or not. These are all just reports and rumors and that sort of stuff. But apparently, like the Mets, everybody thought they would spend and unload on Craig Counsell. Apparently, they weren't willing to go like above 7 or go above 6 million for Counsell either. Sounds like, from everything that we had initially had heard, that the Mets were just going to, pay the roof for him, pay through the roof for Counsell. And it sounds like the Mets weren't willing to do that after the fact. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of this whole thing. It's all over the board. It's really all over the board right now. Be interesting to see, or it'd be interesting to hear from Craig Counsell himself next week. Again, I'm not expecting to spill the beans a whole lot. I'm really not. It wouldn't make sense for him to do that at this point in time. But please write a book in 10 years. I think we all kind of want to know what went on throughout the whole process. What was the mindset? What was going on behind the scenes? Give us a little peek behind the curtain, Craig. So when you're done managing in that, write that book, man. Write a little tell all. I would love to know what was kind of going on in the last few months, last couple months here. What was the mindset when he approached Mark Ennis in September? Did he think that, when he kind of made it known that, I might be looking outside? I mean, maybe that was even before the season started because he didn't want to, talk about a contract. Talk about a contract extension. Maybe he had it on his mind for a while. It's like, hey, you know what? I might want to go elsewhere. Maybe. I don't know. If he had it in his mind that he wanted to go elsewhere, how much blame do you put on the ownership for not keeping him then? And then if Counsell legitimately went back, and we don't know if he did for sure or not, if he did go back to the Brewers with that contract from the Cubs with a chance for the Brewers to match it and they declined not to, then what? Or do you think 8 million is a little too much? Interesting. I don't know. Mark, I'm glad he didn't come to my Twins, but I'd be happy to give you our manager. You can only pitch 5 innings. Okay. You want to give the Brewers Rocco? Part of me was wondering too was that mystery team because you didn't hear it right away. It was like unknown. It was a team with a manager. I was like, oh boy, what if it's the Twins too? Everybody, a lot of us thought it was the Yankees. I thought it was possibly Yankees and such. And nope, surprised it with the Cubbies coming out of nowhere. So keep your thoughts coming. You can hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We'll take a really quick break here. We'll switch gears for a little bit, talk a little green and gold, but definitely we'll get back to some more baseball talk. We'll be back in just a few minutes. When it comes to staying active and living pain-free, trust the experts at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. From weekend warriors to professional athletes, their team of board-certified orthopedic specialists are there to keep you in the game. At Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, they offer cutting-edge treatments and personalized care to help you recover faster and perform better. Don't let pain hold you back. Visit their state-of-the-art facility where they're dedicated to getting you back to doing what you love. Visit cvosm.com to schedule an appointment and take the first step towards a healthier, more active you. We'll be hopefully catching up with Dr. Crow for a little inside the training room at the end of this week on Friday here this morning. We'll get back to some more of your texts coming up here in just a little bit, but keep those coming. 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. Switching gears here for just a little bit. You want to turn it up, this thing's right over there. Mic 2. How's that? That better? That boy. Rookies, I tell you. It's always funny when I see people put that on and they're looking underneath like, what the hell? It's right there. Right in front of you. You got to remember, I figured this was from your age because it's like
it really is.
70s.
Yeah, it really is. This is old school.
Mm-hmm.
So because I started on the air in 1983, and so yeah, this is. I'm looking for new technology, and I don't realize that the old technology is still here.
Right.
So before we talk Packers, Mark Antanasio, Craig Counsell, Christian Yelich, who's to blame? How did this happen?
Money talks.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, and I heard you talking earlier, and Milwaukee was never going to get to that point, $8 million a year. They just weren't. Last I heard was their offer was around $5.5 million, which still would have made him the top. But he set the bar, and so look, if you're going to pay me a lot more money and give me a lot more resources to do my job, I'm probably going to take that. And from a location geography standpoint, with his boys playing, I believe, Minnesota and Michigan?
Yep. And his daughter's in high school yet.
Yeah, they're still at Whitefish Bay. So this gives him the best of everything. You know, he is legitimately close to home, close to his boys, close to his daughters. He makes a lot more money and truly a franchise that basically is saying, look, we're going to spend whatever we have to get the job done. So I don't blame Counsell at all.
You know, from a fan side, it stinks. It hurts. I hate it. You know, because it's the Cubs. It's like if it was Mets, okay, we get it, but it's the Cubs. But from a business side, taking the fan part out of it, I get it.
Yeah,
I totally get it.
Well, I tell you what, and growing up in southern Wisconsin, okay, as a young lad, you know, WGN was it. And so before the Brewers moved over to the National League and they were in the American League, I didn't mind the Cubs. I really didn't. I to this day hate the Cardinals, hate them with a passion. Now, since Milwaukee's become National League, you know, the Cubs Brewers rivalry, I'm certainly not a Cubs fan, but I don't hate them as much as I hate the Cardinals still. And so for me, it's like, but look, when it started coming out yesterday, and I was driving back from Green Bay yesterday, when it started coming out and I was listening to sports talk on my drive, I just kind of said, it is what it is. You know, what are you going to do? Am I a big fan of Antanasio? No. At one point, was he willing to spend money? Yes. It seems he hasn't been over the last few years. Because, I mean, you know, they go out and they get Aramis Ramirez and they get Grandal and they get who was the third baseman from Kansas City that they picked up?
Oh, Moustakas.
Yeah. So they were spending money for a while. It just seems like that spigot has run dry. So we shall see. And I heard you too. I wouldn't mind Pat Murphy. I wouldn't mind that at all. I think there's a guy that has built some roots now in Milwaukee and knows the players and knows the system. So we'll see. But I don't blame Counsell at all.
There's no loyalty in sports, right? Except for one person, Bob Uecker. That's pretty much like the only loyalty I could think of.
Well, well, all right. Well, so would you you look at Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers leaves the Packers. You look at, I would say, Council was kind of the face of the Brewers. I don't really think it's Yelich. So Council's there, and now you got Giannis, who re-upped with Milwaukee now again. We'll see. I just think you have to prepare yourself. I mean, if Michael Jordan could be in a Wizard uniform, if Joe Montana could be in a Chief uniform, if Brett Favre can be in a Viking uniform, Craig Counsell can be in a Cub uniform.
Tom Brady could be in a Bucks uniform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bill Belichick could be coaching the Commanders next year.
Oh man, that's going to get interesting. But I will shift gears. Getting off the Brewer topic, but I wanted your take on it. And the Packers with a win. And I thought
that's your first game, so I think you got to head to Pittsburgh.
I got to head to Pittsburgh. Yeah, I'm actually going to be watching it with a guy that I coach football with in the Madison area, who's a Steeler fan. So it's going to be a good day. But I got to tell you, the young Bucks, whether it be Brooks, or Valentine, or
Colby Wooden,
even and he's not a young Buck, but I thought Isaiah McDuffie played a heck of a game, and so.
Few TFLs there.
Sean Ryan came out and played. Luke Musgrave with his first touchdown. That was
a sweet play.
That was a sweet play.
Yeah.
That was a sweet play. So you finally saw something that you could hang your hat on. And in that second half, Jordan Love was on fire. He had one incompletion that second half. He had, by far, statistically, you take out the 3 touchdowns. I understand that. But from a completion percentage standpoint, his best game of the year. And so you finally saw something that you can say we can build on something. Now, again, they've got a tough Pittsburgh game. Then they've got the Chargers, Detroit, Kansas City. They got a tough stretch here. There's just no question. But then they finish with New York, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Minnesota, Chicago. That's not that tough. So then you start saying to yourself, is this team a 7-win team? Which is where I think a lot of Packer fans probably had them. Again, Vegas had them at 7.5. And so, it just, you finally saw something you can build upon. And obviously, Aaron Jones, not on a snap count, not on a touch count, not on a pitch count, is a difference maker. He didn't have the explosives, but he did the little things in the game to keep the chains moving and stay in front of the chains. So there was a lot to like. And again, I tweeted it out this morning, and I want your opinion. I know statistics. Here's the thing. Statistics are like bikinis. I've said this before, because what they reveal is suggestive, but what they conceal is vital. And so statistically, Jordan Love is on pace for 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. If you would have said that to begin the year, if you can get 3,500 yards, 25 plus touchdowns, and an okay touchdown interception ratio, you would have said yes. And so do you see more that you like of Jordan Love right now? Do you still have question marks? Where are you on Jordan Love?
I feel like for the longest time during that stretch, that losing stretch there, I think you can make the case that you can't really get a good gauge of him because of what's around him, of what was around him, whether it was offensive line play, the youngsters, that sort of stuff. I mean, we can nitpick the certain aspects of his game that he obviously has to improve on, the long ball.
His footwork still needs a lot of work.
Right. I do think I almost feel like, did they unleash it a little bit? Like that one sweet play call we were talking about with Luke Musgrave. Great play. But I give Love a lot of credit there too, because how many of those younger guys I could see rushing that? Well, I got a pump fake right. I got a pump fake left. Then I got to turn around. You're blind there for a little bit.
Right.
And to make that throw to Musgrave, it might not look like, well, it wasn't a deep throw. But to have, I would have panicked. I would have rushed it.
Because you're thinking, because your internal clock as a quarterback starts ticking down. And you say to yourself, I'm not going to have time to do this.
Right.
And so I thought LaFleur called a great game. I know everyone said they played against a third-string quarterback. I get that. But here's the thing. Offensively, you still had Aaron Donald out there. You still had players on that Rams side of the ball. And I thought, for the most part, Green Bay offensively, 2 phantom calls on John Runyon negated 4th and 1 conversions.
Right.
And so you don't know where those drives go. And then also, second half, back-to-back fumbles, Aaron Jones, Dontavian Wicks.
they couldn't get in that rhythm, even though it looked like they were getting into a rhythm.
So I
don't fault Jordan Love for that.
No, I don't either. And so I get it. They were playing against Brett Rippon. I was going to say Mark Rippon, taking me back to my old radio days. I get it, but look at what they did offensively against this Ram defense. Were they missing some guys? Yeah, but were the Packers missing some guys? Yes. And
2 7th-rounders starting in the secondary.
Yeah.
Quay Walker's not playing. Kenny Clark leaves the game.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I know people are like, oh, they're backup quarterback, but the thing is too is like it for the longest time because there was a point at that second half when they were fumbling. I'm like, they're doing it again. They're going to let them hang around.
Right.
Offense is putting defense in a bad spot.
Right.
And that defense stood up, and they didn't allow a backup quarterback.
Right.
To go down.
And look around the NFL. Look at the backup quarterbacks that have had to play and actually succeeded. Guys coming in off the bench, guys, rookies coming in who hadn't played. You're seeing it all over the place. So I don't make any excuses for wins, especially when you talk about football. When you look at basketball and baseball, when you look at the NBA and Major League Baseball, those seasons, one loss, you really got to get over quickly because you got so many
play
games.
The next day a lot of times.
So in the NFL, you got 17 games. In college football, you got 12. High school football, you've got 9. And so you just don't make any excuses for wins. And so I take this, and it's something you can build upon. And now you say to yourself, that at halftime of this game coming up, it's the halfway point of the season.
Yep.
And so right now, this team is about where I thought they'd be. And Jordan Love to be on pace with those kind of numbers, if you would have said beginning of the year, he'll be, again, the completion percentage, the footwork, those types of things he still needs to work on. A guy that I really enjoy, and he writes for the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and he's on the Bill Michaels show, is Aaron Baranchik. And Eric Baranchik, and he does a really nice job of looking at the X's and O's, and he talked about it. He's like, there's a lot to build upon with Jordan Love right now. There's a lot to like. And now you got to, this offseason, you got to continue to work on his footwork. You got to continue to work on the deep ball. You got to continue to work on these things. Again, Jordan Love's 24 years old. So
just turned 24 or just had a birthday last week.
So this is still a very young guy. And again, I have not been on the Jordan Love bandwagon, but I saw a lot you could build upon Sunday.
Absolutely. And I agree with you when you mentioned those young guys, because that's what I kind of mentioned yesterday. Even Slate, the last couple of weeks that he is provided with that run defense. And I know, yes, again, we'll look at Minnesota and the Rams run offense and, but still, again, they didn't allow mediocre teams to run all over them. And Slayton has been, I think, a nice boost to that run defense.
Oh, yeah. No question. No question. So again, and look, Matt LaFleur is not going anywhere. Brian Gutekunst isn't going anywhere. Mark Murphy seems very content with this rebuild going into his, I believe next year is his mandatory last year, correct?
Yeah, I think the draft is kind of like his going away party.
Okay, because I know it's in the bylaws of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I think it's 2025.
Okay, so. All right. So, Mark Murphy obviously is on board with this rebuild, is on board with the direction of this team. And so, again, we kept on saying over the losing streak, give Packer fans, give the coaching staff, give the players something to build upon. And they did. They came through, and I thought they played a good football game against an undermanned opponent, but that's what you should do. You should beat teams like that. And really, yes, the Packers kept on keeping the Rams in the game, but I never felt uncomfortable. And again, part of that is the third string quarterback and all of that kind of stuff. But I again look at this schedule, and if this team, if they pull another 4 wins out rest of the year, that's a 7-10 football team, which is where most Packer fans probably had them.
What would you say to the fans though that don't want them to have 7 wins and they want them to have 4 wins, 3 wins?
I get that. I mean, I get that. But you look, I don't care what level you are. If you're a coach, if you're a player, if you're a GM, you want wins. And so, yeah, I get it. If they go 7-10, they're going to be Packer fans that grumble because they didn't go 3-14.
Right.
And so, I mean, I get all of that. But you play to win the game.
Right.
I mean, you play to win the game. And so I don't care what level you're in. And look, I've coached youth football. I've coached high school. college football fan, pro, et cetera, you coach your players to get better, but you coach them to win. Period. End of discussion. And so if Green Bay has a relatively successful second half, and they are that 7-10, which puts them, I don't know, about 16th in the draft, which is pretty much going to be mid-tier.
Right.
So be it. And you know what? Goody's got 2 second-round picks. He's got 2 third-round picks.
And you and I both know, because we love the draft so much, it is such a crapshoot. Just having a higher pick does not guarantee you anything.
No.
How many times have we gone through this?
I mean, Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf, Tony Mandrich.
Right.
If you want to go back to the Packers, it doesn't guarantee you anything. And so if Goody wants to move up, he's got the ammunition to do so. With 2 seconds, 2 thirds, probably 2 fourths, because he's going to get a compensatory pick. I think it's going to be in the 4th round. And so you've got the wherewithal to move up. I would rather have the Green Bay Packers finish 7-10 and have something to build upon.
Like the Lions last year.
That's exactly
right.
They were playing to knock Green Bay out of the playoffs, and they did it. And you know what? That tells me that a coach still has the locker room. And so, look, if they do finish 3-14, so be it. It is what it is. If you're seeing them playing hard and et cetera. But I got to tell you, this team goes 3-14 or 4-13 or whatever that number is going to be. You got serious questions about Matt LaFleur. Did he lose the locker room? And I think right now the plan, if I were sitting at 1265, seems to be that everyone's pretty comfortable. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Just this is the plan. Let's follow the plan through. So remains to be seen, but lots to build upon. And just, there are some good young football players on this team.
What'd you make of the Rasul Douglas trade? Initially, what was your reaction?
Oh, it sucked. It sucked. And then when I started looking at the dynamics of everything and, is this a guy that probably would have been a cap casualty next year? It sucks. And when you're in that locker room, it sucks. But when you're and according to all reports, from what we understand, he was not shopping Rasul Douglas. The Bills called. He said, I'm not going to do it for anything less than a third. I know we had to give up the 5th as well, but he got a third out of the deal. For a guy that probably was not going to be on the team next year, and I love Rasul Douglas. I think he was one of those guys you could build a young team around if you were in a position to do so, if you weren't hurting for salary cap. I mean, the Packers are still in that digging out mode from salary cap hell. And so there's still a lot of work that this team needs to do before Brian Gutekunst can start writing checks again. And so initially it sucked, but I look at everything and I look at the numbers. I look at Rasul. He'd be a 30-year-old cornerback next year. Like I said, probably a cap casualty because his cap number next year, I believe, was around $7 million. So you say, can we get by this year? And is that trade capital going to mean more down the road? Probably yes. And then there's the Packer fans that say, anything but a third because Gutekunst can't draft in the 3rd round. I get that. But again, if you package a 2nd and a 3rd and you move up in the 1st or do whatever, then you're looking at a return on your investment.
Yeah. The optics obviously didn't look that great.
Didn't look great at all.
After, he was emotional after the game and, you heard reporters, and I know we had Justice on yesterday, and he was in the locker room at that game, and he was talking about he was kind of holding court and all that. Then 2 days later, he gets traded.
Right.
So everybody's like, because of the comments he made.
Right.
And you look at the depth at cornerback, and it didn't look good. But then, like you said, when you look at it, because I was like, okay, if you're going to do Douglas, then why not press in Devondre? But you're right, because he had the bigger cap space clearing over there.
Right. Absolutely. And look, is Preston Smith going to be on this football team next year? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. He might be. Is David Bakhtiari? No.
Right.
I mean, we know that, so you're going to clear that cap space off. I would like to keep Devondre, because I think again he's critical. But
the way McDuffie's playing now, too, that's
it's going to be interesting this offseason. But again, from a standpoint of this team, and this goes back to LaFleur, Rasul Douglas, the optics don't look good. The locker room's not in a good place. They come out and play their best game of the year since the Chicago game.
Right.
And so now you look at it and say, okay, LaFleur was able to keep the locker room through this. And that's as you look at your check marks and your benchmarks this year, okay, this week, this team could have really gone into a tailspin. LaFleur kept the locker room. So you got to grow. You got to get better, and this team got better for one day.
What do you think of my guy, Anthony Johnson Jr.?
You know what?
He was my favorite pick in that draft.
Look, I thought, and being at the game, and you know this, you can see things so differently. Was he a little bit late on a couple of plays reading things? Yes, absolutely. But did you see playmaker ability out there? Did you see a guy that there's something there? And so, he makes a great timed hit to knock the ball out, and then of course the deflected interception. I thought he acclimated himself well, and I thought, again, when they drafted him, I thought this might be a guy that's competing for a starting spot. And so now, if you get Rudy Ford back next week, and you got Johnson coming back with a little bit more game experience, things you can build upon. And I tell my players this, and this is true again: youth football, high school football, college, or pro. Start stacking plays, start stacking practices, start stacking games, because anybody can do it for once. Anybody can go out there and do it once. What you do, though, is can you stack things? It's the same thing with Jordan Love. Can he build on that? Look, if the Packers lose to Pittsburgh, which is a distinct possibility, but Jordan Love goes 21 of 28, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, that's a build-upon game. Now, if he goes 17 of 35, 189 yards and 5 interceptions, okay, we took a step back again. And so, but you want to see these young guys continue to stack. And you mentioned TJ Slayton, and we talked about Brooks, who probably had his best game of the year. And you know what? I know Dontavian Wicks had the fumble, but if I'm not mistaken, he caught all of his targets. I think it was 4 for 4, 3 for first downs.
He looks like he's turning into a favorite for Jordan Love here.
I think so too. And
that's where I like the Dobbs one too. I know he didn't have a lot, but he looks like he's that guy, like when you get to those closeout situations, he's that guy that's stepping up that you can go to help close out a game.
There was a pass fourth quarter to Dobbs for a first down, and it was tightly contested, and Dobbs had his hands in front of him, and he plucked the ball with his hands as he was getting hit and held onto it. That showed me, and that was in the fourth quarter, and that kept the drive alive. I think that might have been the Musgrave touchdown. I'm not sure, but that was a big play. That was a third down play, keeping the chains moving. And you're seeing, you saw the touchdown with Dobbs coming back for the ball last week. And now you're seeing contested balls a little bit. I don't like the fact that Christian Watson catches one contested ball and then gets hurt.
Right.
I don't like that at all. And that's the fragility, if you will, that Christian Watson now has kind of shown through a season and a half. And he's just got to get stronger, and he's got to continue to work his body so that he doesn't become that fragile of a guy. But yeah, I loved Wicks. I had to laugh because looking at Musgrave up close, that he reminds me of the tight ends back in the day. He looks like he's about 215, 220.
Yeah.
I mean, he does not look big. He's a tall guy.
He's not a Kelsey or a Gronk or anything like
that.
Yeah.
And again, this is a guy that needs to put on functional strength. And here's another one. He's going to have if he stays on target, he'll have the most catches out of a rookie tight end since, I believe, Finley.
Yeah.
And so, you've got some things that you can start building around. And I thought Jaden Reed did a nice job. I thought, and Anders Carlson missed the field goal, but that 2-minute drill was very clean before halftime. They got it down, spiked the ball with 4 seconds to go. Jaden Reed with about a 10-yard pass to get them a little bit closer, get them under 50 yards for the field goal. Carlson missed it, but I thought that was a really clean operation. And again, things you can build on. Is this team a good football team? No. Is this team a young football team? Absolutely.
So with like a lot of the mistakes, penalties, offsides, to me, it's inexcusable for like Rashawn Gary lining up in a neutral zone, that sort of stuff. But like Jaden Reed, his false start because he's paying attention to the hard count instead of looking at the ball being snapped.
Right.
That stuff, is that more, in your opinion? Because a lot of people say, well, these penalties are all a reflection of coaching. Is it coaching, or is it just the young guys and the inexperience?
Yes. So to both.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't excuse the coaching staff. As we've said all along, look, these guys basically, these rookies, they've basically played a college season now. Okay, when you look at 8 games plus the exhibition season. And so they played a college football season. So in the veterans' eyes, and I agree with it, you're no longer a rookie.
Right.
And it's the same thing that, and I talked to my quarterbacks going in next year at Eau Claire Memorial. You're no longer a freshman and a sophomore. You're now a sophomore and a junior, because once your season is done, as far as I'm concerned, you've moved on to that next level. It's the same thing with the rookies. You've gone through 12 games, basically 11 or 12 games, exhibition season plus the games. You're done with your college season. So yeah, those need to, this back half of the year, that kind of stuff needs to be cleaned up. And if it doesn't get cleaned up, that's on the coaching staff then.
All right. So to wrap it up, we got Steelers here. TJ Watts maybe licking his chops at the left tackle. Although Walker did better. More so in run blocking situation. But
Josh Nijman did go out of the game, and I thought Walker acclimated himself. I still think Josh Nijman should be at that left tackle position. Again, TJ Watt is always synonymous with Kevin King.
Right.
Always going to be synonymous. I don't see Green Bay winning this football game. If this game were at Lambeau, I just think Pittsburgh's defense is really good. And I think that they will keep this game. This game will be a 20-14 ball game or something like that, because I don't see Pittsburgh's offense lighting it up. And so I see Green Bay losing this game. The goal to be, can you continue to build on things? Does Love have a good game?
The growth.
Absolutely. But I see when you look at it, I see Green Bay losing. I see Green Bay beating the Chargers.
Really?
At this point, I think they lose Detroit, Kansas City back to back. So I think they go into that back 5 games with 4 wins.
Interesting. All right.
And so, I think
I'd be happy with that. I mean, you want the best for your teams every year, but expectations. What's your expectations for this?
Yeah, if you got 4 wins with 5 to go and 5 winnable games. And you come.
That's what I want. I want to see this team do what the Lions did last year.
Absolutely.
At one point, they were 1-6. Dan Campbell was going to get fired.
Get better.
Right. They turned it around.
Get better. That's what you want to see out of a young team. If this team falls flat on its face for the rest of the year, there's probably more issues than we know. But yeah, I see Green Bay losing this weekend.
So under that scenario, very quick, if that does happen, how you kind of maybe are predicting or want to see happen? Does that mean Joe Barry's job is safe in your opinion?
At this point, now again, we all want, we all have problems with Joe Barry. When you see Preston Smith line up on Justin Jefferson, there's problems there. Right now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's around 20 points a game. The Packers defense giving up right around there.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue. You're keeping points off the board.
Right.
I get it. They haven't been playing explosive teams. So is it the offenses they're playing or is it the defense? But, this team is not giving up chunk yardage. This team is not giving up a lot of points per game. And so I personally would like to see Joe Barry gone. But if you got things to build upon and this defense ends up giving up around 20 points a game, it's not bad in the NFL. And so I personally, I'd like him gone. But you can't just fire a guy because you don't like him.
Right. That's pretty much what I said yesterday, too. Like, if this continues the way it's going, I just pretty much verbatim for what you said, I can see him being back next year. And I know that'll piss off a lot of Packers fans.
No doubt.
I don't necessarily agree with that. But, yeah, I mean, I could see it happening.
I could, too. Look, the proof's on the field. And if this team is top half of the NFL in scoring defense, and again, you might want to shake it up just to shake it up, and maybe Matt LaFleur gets pressure and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, if this team, 7-10-ish, and you're seeing some real signs of life this back half of the year, yeah, at that point, you would be firing him for the fans, not for the team.
Right. Yep, I agree. And maybe those games against like the Chargers and the Chiefs, which I know their offense hasn't been world beaters this year, but if they kind of hold them to, that might help his cause.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt, and absolutely no doubt, and that Chargers team. The only reason I think that could be an upset is it's a Green Bay game, and I just think that Staley is just a horrible coach.
Yeah,
I
do
think he's a
too.
horrible coach, and so I think he could lose that game for you.
I kind of had a joke at the beginning of the year. Staley, future Packers defensive coordinator.
Well, because that's what Matt LaFleur wanted.
Right.
That's why he hired Joe Barry.
Yeah.
And so it remains to be seen. But here's the deal: you got X amount of wins in life. Enjoy this win, Packer fans.
Mm-hmm.
And any given Sunday, see what happens in Pittsburgh at noon on Sunday.
Packers, by the way, 10th in defense of points allowed, 19.9.
There we go.
The Jets that everybody loves, 19.5. Just throwing that out there. So.
If you're Joe Barry's lawyer, you just basically had a mic drop and you said case closed, man.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You just did it right there.
Bengals and their defense coordinator Lou, who everybody loves as a head coach, 20.3.
Dude, you just mic dropped.
So.
You are the attorney for Joe Barry.
I do like to act a little Law and Order once in a while. Dun dun dun. I like to rile stuff up. So, all right, dude. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, always good seeing you.
Absolutely.
And next time I'm looking for the new technology.
Now
I'll just go back to the old school technology.
You know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to plug it in the other hole.
I know. But you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually know to look at the old technology.
Well, I'm going to have it so it's like mic 3, and then you're still like turning it up. Or I could shut it off back here.
Well, yeah, you have the master control.
I could really screw
You have the master control. And so,
I can't do more than 2 things at once. So,
but so at some point down the road, I will share with you why I got into radio in 1983.
All right. Was it the vent after the Brewers lost the World Series?
Nope, it's about a girl.
Oh, it's always about a girl, isn't it? It's the name of a song. Joe, appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Take care.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll finish up the second hour. We got RJ Cardinal coming up in about 30 minutes. Lots to chat about with the Badgers, football, hoops picking up their first win last night, too. And, of course, that men's hockey team continuing to roll. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, we got a couple minutes to the top of the hour here. A couple more. What's your beefs? We've got Surveyor. DK, you know what my beef is? All these Packer fans wanting to tank. What is actually wrong with you people? How can you actually cheer for losses? Is it because we've been spoiled for 30 years, and since Love isn't up to a Hall of Fame status, you have given up on him? Or is it defense that has only given up an average of 19.6 points per game? I get your gripe with Joe Barry, but still, if I told you that the defense will average less than 20 points given up a game, we'd be all ecstatic. It just amazes me that one season of a team trying to figure things out with plenty of bumps, and you all instantly jump on the tank. I myself will cheer every week for the Packers and a W, no matter what. Let's go, J Love. Prove everyone wrong. And honestly, I have nothing but respect for Craig Counsell. He did more for the Brewers than any other manager, and he went out and got his payday. Not his fault. Mark Anasio is a cheapskate and won't pay for anyone. C-Bomb going a little bit of a different route. Craig Counsell is dead to me. This is worse than Brett going to the Vikings. Counsell has another 15 or more years to manage. They should take his plaque off the wall and smash it publicly. Wow. All right. So C-Bomb going really upset with Craig Counsell going to the Cubbies there. For those of you who haven't chimed in, what are your thoughts on the whole Craig Counsell situation? Going to the Cubbies there. You get it? Money wise? You upset with Mark? You upset with Craig? Where's your head at with this thing? Let us know. 715-830-1912 with a quick text there. So all right. Coming up, because the shot clock's going to cut me off here in about 20 seconds or so. Coming up next hour, we'll get back to some more of your messages. We got Badger Chat with RJ. Plenty to get to with that loss to Indiana for football. Men's hockey continues to roll right now. Hoops got started off last night, putting up over 100 points. Now they got Tennessee, number 9 team in the country, coming up on Friday. So plenty to get to here. Well, we got to take a quick break for some news updates, and we'll be back in just a few minutes to kick off the final hour on this What's Your Beef Tuesday. All right, here we go. Final hour on this What's Your Beef Tuesday, presented by Ray's Place. Hopefully, you're all off to a fantastic start this morning, wherever you're listening to us from. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we'll catch up with our good buddy, Mr. RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst from the Zone in Madison. We'll catch up with him on all things Badger hockey. Men's team continues to roll right now. A lot of you picking them for your studs from yesterday. Badger hoops tipping off the season last night with a win over Arkansas State. Badgers dropping over 100 over a Benjamin against Arkansas State. Now they've got number 9 Tennessee coming up on Friday here. So that season fully under with them too, with that very disappointing loss to the Hoosiers to Indiana on Saturday. So RJ will be coming up here in just a little bit here. So we'll hit that up. Bucks also picked up the win last night, 129 to 125 over the Brooklyn Nets. So Bucks improving to 4-2 on the season. Bucks fairly healthy last night too. Giannis was the leading scorer for the Bucks, dropping 36 points. Chris Middleton, 21 minutes of action, getting it up there a little bit more. 15 points for him. Damian Lillard, just 5 of 15 from the field, including 2 of 8 from 3. He finished with 21 points. But Bucks getting some production off the bench. He had 4 bench players, 4 of the 5 players coming off the bench in double-figure scoring. Jay Crowder, 15, 4 of 9 from 3. Bobby Portis putting up 11. Cameron Payne, 11. Pat Connaughton, 10. The only bench player to get significant minutes to not get double-figure scoring was Marjan Beauchamp, 16 minutes off the bench for the second-year man. So Bucks now, they've got the Pistons coming up tomorrow. That'll be back in Milwaukee. So, all right, let's get back to some more stuff on Craig Counsell here. Again, I kind of there's frustration amongst a lot of Brewers fans right now. Whether you're frustrated with the owner for not forking over the dough, for not forking over the cash for Craig Counsell, there's frustration targeted towards Craig Counsell for going to a rival. For some, maybe the Brewers' main rival, especially when you consider the proximity. Some may still consider the Cardinals as the main rival. I'd like to hear from some Cubs fans, though, too. I know we got some. Okay, so if you're a Cubs fan, I want to hear from you, Beerman Josh and others. But what are your thoughts on your team letting go of Rossi and going with Craig Counsell? What are your thoughts on that? Let me know. Okay, hit me up with a text. You like the move or you don't like the move? I think it's probably pretty evident, with the Cubs, maybe last year surpassing some expectations, kind of fell off towards the end of the regular season. Looked like they were going to make the postseason, just missed it. But some of their talent, Bellinger obviously having a bounce back year. There was a lot of optimism, I think, for the Cubs heading into this year. They had Craig Counsell. I think it's probably pretty obvious they're going to do some more spending and bring in some free agents and such to add to that team. I think that's kind of obvious at this point. So maybe there's Cubs fans pumped up about that because they feel like their team might be fairly aggressive when it comes to this offseason. Maybe. GM meetings going on right now. So, when the news came down yesterday about Counsell going to the Cubs, the fan side of me, I was upset. I was disappointed. I was annoyed. Whatever word you want to use. And I was like, Craig, how could you do this? How could you go to the Cubs? Flashbacks of Favre to Vikings, and I know that's not probably the greatest example in the world. But it's like, come on, why would you do that? Then you're like, $8 million. It's like, oh boy, that is a lot of money. $8 million per year. I mean, the number that was getting floated out there that the Mets were going to do 7. It sounds like the Mets weren't even willing to go that high. We knew Craig was looking to set the bar for manager salaries, to raise it up for others. But, the fan side of me, and I was just like, dude, why do you got to go to the Cubs? It's like, okay, go to the Mets. Heck, even the Yankees, I think for a hot minute, I was one of them. I know I was talking to a few other people, and they're like, yeah, it's probably the Yankees when it was like, it trickled out. It wasn't going to be the Brewers. It wasn't going to be the Mets. It's like, okay, it's going to a team that already has a manager. It's like, oh, probably the Yankees. It's like, okay, yeah, Yankees are going to, overpay. And then it came that it was the Cubs. And we know Cubs once in a while has spent some cash. But the fact that it's the rival, the fan side of me, that's what made me upset with Craig that he would go to a rival, to a division rival. So from the fans' perspective, I was upset. And I'm still a little annoyed to it because, it is a rival. But when you look at it from a business side of things, from Craig Counsell's perspective, it's really hard to turn down $8 million per year. And when you factor in the proximity that he probably doesn't have to uproot his family, his daughters. I don't know what the plan is. It doesn't matter to us anyways. But, proximity-wise, it works for him. He's familiar with the Cubs, with the team, with the organization. He's got his payday. Probably got some assurances that, hey, they're going to spend on roster stuff. I already kind of like the younger makeup, some parts of the team already. From just a purely, business side of things and from a competitive standpoint, when you take away the fan part, or when you take away all that stuff, it makes sense for Craig Counsell to do this. And I understand that. And after, letting my raw emotions from a fan go down, I get it. I understand it from that side. Not everybody, I think we get so caught up in the loyalty aspect of sports, and we gravitate towards players and coaches that, we want loyalty. We want players and coaches to stay with our teams. Like it's like right now with the Bucks and Giannis. We want Giannis to stay. We're hoping that he'll stay, and we love it because right now he's been so loyal, and Giannis talked about loyalty and how much loyalty means to him. That doesn't mean that he's gonna be a Buck for life. We hope he is. But I mean, look at the trend in sports lately, and that hasn't really been a thing. Gone are the days of Jeter playing with the Yankees the whole time, Kobe playing with the Lakers. In fact, there was a minute that Kobe wasn't going to be with the Lakers. Remember that from me? He's like, was it going to be the Bulls? And then there was a story where he talked about going to the Clippers, and it sounded like Jerry West kind of talked him out of that, that sort of stuff. But Tim Duncan's staying with the Spurs. Those aren't the norms. Those are the rare ones. Coaches too. It's we value loyalty so much because I think as fans you're so loyal to your favorite teams that you want that back from your players, and you want that back from your good coaches, your coaches that you want sticking around. You're loyal to your team, so you want those players and those coaches to be loyal to you. And in essence, this is their job, though. This is their job. And a lot of times they got to do what's best for them, or maybe they just want to do something different. A lot of us, we've changed careers, we've changed jobs because we wanted to do something different. We wanted to go elsewhere, whether it was for money, change of scenery, or whatever. And I think sometimes we kind of forget that when we are cheering on our teams and our favorite players and such. So as a fan, as a Brewers fan, it sucks. I hate it. It annoys me because it's the Cubs. You can't do that. You can't do that. You're Mr. Brewer, Council. I mean, how many times did it get told to us? Your dad was a member of the organization. You were a bat boy. You grew up. You live. Your round home is it around Milwaukee? You played there. Now you manage there. It's a storybook. You were the one that was going to lead us to a World Series. You've won a bunch of games. You can't go to the Cubs. So as a fan, it makes me sad. I'm going through the stages of grief. Makes me a little down. Makes me frustrated. But you take away that sort of stuff. You take away the fan stuff from it. Those personal feelings. I get it. I get it. You got a lot of money. You're going to a team that's maybe kind of like the Lions last. I know, we were using the Detroit Lions as a comparison, maybe for the Packers, for the best outlook for the Packers this year to end the season on a good note where you got some optimism. Maybe that was kind of like the Cubs this past year too. That, oh wow, they kind of made a run, right? They kind of made a run. They looked like they were going to the playoffs, surpassing a little expectations. Now they're heading into an off season where, all right, this might be a team to watch a little bit here. They got a good core, some younger guys. Now you had Cubs. Cubs are kind of like the Detroit Lions here a little bit, maybe, possibly. From a straight up baseball decision for I can't fault them too much. It worked out, I think, for both. He wanted to give it a big payday. Maybe didn't want to leave too far from home, and maybe that's why Cleveland was kind of in the conversation a little bit. And now it kind of sounds like maybe the Mets weren't that far into it that we were led to believe. So you got the location, you got the money, and you got a talented roster with some optimism heading into it. From a business standpoint, I get it from council. It doesn't mean I have to like it. It doesn't mean I have to like it, but I get it. I get it. But I'm a fan, so I don't have to like it. Because we want our players and we want our coaches and all those players to be loyal to our teams, because we are loyal to our teams. What do we always say? Team over player. We're loyal, so we want our players and our coach to be loyal. When in fact, that's not always the case. Once in a while, you get those players and coaches who are loyal to the bone. Hopefully, Giannis is a guy like that, maybe. But those are getting fewer and fewer and fewer. All right, let's take a quick break here. Let's talk some Badgers here, switching gears, but keep the conversation coming. Hit us up with a text, 715-830-1912. Mark, the question, what's the status of the other coaches? If you're asking about the Brewers coaches, Mark Anasio said last night that the coaching staff is still under contract and they're all expected to be back with the Brewers next year, if that's who you're referring to. So, all right, let's take a quick break and we'll talk some Badgers, switching gears here a little bit. Coming up in just a few minutes. It's getting close to that time of year where you're going to be having a bunch of people in your home, whether you like it or not. So you want to make sure your home is up to snuff with all those family and friends get-togethers. And the first area you should be looking at to upgrade is the floors in your home. I mean, just imagine, close your eyes for a few seconds and imagine that one room or two in your home that would look amazing with a brand new carpet or some luxury vinyl planks or tile. I see that smile creeping on your face now. So, all right, here's what you do. You head on over to Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Their incredible team will help you find that perfect floor that will make your family and friends incredibly jealous, look awesome in your home, and fits within your budget because they will even match or beat the competition. The team at Carpet City Flooring Center is like one big family. And since we're getting ready to be spending a lot of time with the family and friends in the next couple of months, why wouldn't you want to work with a team that is already like a family? I don't know why you wouldn't. Go visit them today. Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire at 3019 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. Oh, let's switch gears here for a second. Although you are a noted Brewers fan, RJ, because I always appreciate your tweets after the Brewers win on the X there. What was your first reaction when you heard the news about Craig Counsell going a little further south and joining the Cubbies?
It was one of those I had to check and see if I was getting boomered or not. And then, once other accounts corroborated and you noticed it was actually the correct account tweeting it out, it was kind of a shock. But then when you had about 20 minutes later, the whole $40 million and roughly $8 million a year to be the highest paid manager in baseball, that's kind of hard to say no to. No matter who it ends up being that you go to. Do we wish it was probably the Mets? Yeah, that's a little bit more understandable to some people who tend to hate a team. But it is, I think it's just a little more crushing when it's a division opponent.
Exactly. I agree with you, man. Speaking of crushing, that game on Saturday, Indiana, Wisconsin losing to Indiana. For all the ups and downs from this season so far and the inconsistencies, was that the worst game, worst thing that we've seen so far this season from this Badger football team?
Yeah, it's right up there. That team just didn't show up. Not sure how, when, where, why, but whatever is going on with this team, they can't figure it out. I wish I had a better explanation, but I mean, you have an offensive line who is absolutely regressed again. You have a team whose discipline is non-existent, and you have a team whose wide receivers can't catch a cold. It's completely frustrating to see what you have going on in front of you when you go up against an Indiana team that was struggling themselves to even know what they wanted to do, both offensively and defensively. And yet you once again made a horrible team look like they should be contending for a Big Ten division title.
What has been, in your opinion, the most frustrating part about the offense? Is it the offensive line? Is it injuries? Is it wide receivers? What is there one thing that just kind of bugs you the most or frustrates you the most about this offense so far?
It's so inconsistent. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be an air raid. Longo likes keeping it as close to even in terms of attempts for rushing and passing. But the fact, if something's working, he'll go away from it just for the sake of making it even. The play calling seems to be all over the place. Yeah, and then I think the biggest one is the receivers, um, who just can't hang on to a football. I mean, now sure, I think the last week was probably Braden Locke's worst game. There were some passes that needed some touch, and then there were some passes that needed to be zinged in there, and the other result happened where he probably slung it in there too quickly at times, or didn't just put touch on a ball that needed to be somewhere quicker than it got. And it's just the penalties we've seen that aren't like personal foul penalties, but just pre-snap penalties and things like that. It's it's just frustrating to see, and it's something more of a whole. Defensively, I don't understand why adjustments aren't made until after halftime. Because I mean, you held them to 3 points in the second half. I mean, that could have pretty much probably been 3 points the entire game had you made your adjustments in game rather than waited till halftime. But it's overall just a poor performance, executing by the players as well as whatever the heck the coaching staff decided the game plan was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. So now you got Northwestern coming to town here. I mean, Badgers got to get one more win to be bowl eligible at this point. I would assume that they're going to get one more win in these next couple weeks here, but I don't know what's been more frustrating so far this year, Packers offense or the Badgers offense, RJ.
um, that's it's. I think they're very comparable,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because you're looking at two teams who have some new starters in positions. One is, more of a major overhaul, but still, I mean, it's not like the cupboards at your skill positions were uh, bare here at Wisconsin, and they aren't really in Green Bay either. I mean, I think you could put them both on a level of great disappointment uh, in terms of I don't think one outranks the other.
Mm-hmm. If Tanner Mordecai is eligible to come back anytime soon, like whether this week it doesn't, I know Fickle didn't sound too optimistic, or next week, do you go back to him, or do you just ride it out with Braden Locke and kind of almost get him more experience for next year at this point?
Ooh, I mean it's not like they were running on all cylinders with Tanner Mordecai. They were scoring more, I'll say that, but it's not much of a difference. Probably because more to do with the level opponent they were playing. But you probably go back to Mordecai just because he's done at the end of the year, and I get the whole giving Braden Locke some time to get in there and do his thing. But I mean, ultimately, that's what spring ball will do. That's what you'd think, judging by some of the comments that were made as well when people asked about Miles Burkett and Evers, what was going on there, and the answer was, we're going with the best option to win. So that doesn't exactly speak highly of them. But I think just to get like some kind of jolt to bring back Mordecai might be the answer. And if that isn't it, you just put Locke back in there and say, let's get ready for next year, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Switching gears here a little bit, RJ, maybe to Wisconsin's new favorite coach right now, Mike Hastings, and this Badger men's hockey team. Another week where they swept a ranked opponent, this time against Michigan here, man. I mean, what's the conversation like about? I know we talked about before the season started, and it really didn't have too high expectations or a lot of expectations. But I mean, where's this conversation now with this team down in Madison, given what we've seen these last 3 weeks with this team?
So I have some very distinct group of friends. I had a bunch of buddies who actually played high school hockey, and I mean, didn't go past that. But I mean, I trust them with their knowledge of hockey,
Right.
and they're talking like night and day. There actually seems to be an offensive system in place. You can tell they're skating better. It's not just a dump and chase kind of offense, and it's just there's structure within the program again. And yeah, it is getting people excited. And I mean, there were people I know who dumped their season tickets after last year, and now they're kind of regretting that. And that for the first time Saturday in a long time, they opened up the third deck for the weekend. It wasn't open Friday, but yeah, Saturday was the fullest I've seen it probably since we last played in the national championship season. I think 2010 might have been when we played BC and lost in the championship game. I'm trying to remember that. But yeah, it's just amazing what has transpired in a short amount of time here with Mike Hastings coming on board. I mean, you reached 9 wins on November 4th. Last year in the season, the 9th win came on January 6th, 2023. So, I mean, you're leaps and bounds ahead of where you were last year, not only in the win column, but in the quality of skating that's going on. And whether that be that the change in coaching staff really made that big of a difference, it did. It seems the guys who even stayed here have bought into what's going on, and they're even doing better in this new system than they were under Granato.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be. I mean, the confidence. I mean, it's crazy this 3 week stretch that's going on where they've been sweeping these teams and ranked teams that are ranked higher than them at that point. So, man, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see, and they're not just playing one style of hockey. I mean, they outskated Minnesota. They skated with Michigan, who at the time was scoring goals at almost 5.5 goals a game. You beat them Friday night 5-4 in a more their style game. You beat them 2-1 on Saturday night with a power play goal with 6.5 seconds left in the game. I mean, that was ridiculous. And the play that Michigan it was kind of odd. Michigan challenged a goal / non-goal with a puck that never even got close to crossing the line. But one of their players slid into the net and knocked it off the posts there. But they challenged that. Since they didn't have a timeout left, they weren't charged with a timeout. They were charged with a delay of game penalty. And so, yeah, for the final minute 40, the Badgers would be on the power play, and luckily enough, one trickled through the crease, and somebody found it and put it in. So, yeah, it was an intense game to be at, and it's just amazing watching this team and the competitive streak that's in them that I'm not sure we've seen the past few years.
Last night, RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, joining us here this morning. Hoop season tipped off for the Badger men's basketball team, and what, most points? Did I see Connor even tweet that out last night? Yeah, Wisconsin basketball setting a new scoring record last night. How about that? Proud of the guys. Well, they put up over 100 points in their game against Arkansas State. Now they got Tennessee, 9th ranked in the country, coming up on Friday. So obviously will be a more difficult test there. But given it's an interesting lineup, I think when you look at this Badger basketball team, RJ, and one guy that I'm really kind of excited about to see what he can provide this year is AJ. You know, the guy, the transfer from St. John's, who was Big East all freshman last year, and he put up 15 points in the game last night.
He's proving to be looking like he's going to be a very key contributor to to this team. And then when he went in a little rut, Chucky came up big and ended up with 20 points. AJ Store 15. It's a team that, and I mean, the freshmen that are actually still with the team right now, both played some meaningful minutes, and Blackwell looks like he's going to be the real deal. And I mean, on the recruiting trail, all you really heard was, it's hard to describe, but this kid's a player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll see that hopefully keep blossoming. Like I said, I think 12 for meaningful minutes. I think I saw 12 people got in the game last night until they cleared the benches. But yeah, it's really looking like a team that might be going deeper than we've seen in a rotation for quite some time. And no hard feelings towards some of the guys who played last year and are still on the team this year. They probably don't need all the minutes they were getting.
Mm-hmm.
And these new additions are moving some of those guys a little further down the bench too. So it'll be it looks like it'll be a fun season. Like you said though, Friday will be a little bit bigger of a test when you have the number 9 team in the country coming on into the Kohl Center. But it'll at least not having a flat game, I guess, against Arkansas State makes you a little optimistic for what can happen Friday. And I guess so does watching James Madison last night beat Michigan State at the Breslin Center. So it'll be hopefully a good one come Friday.
You mentioned John Blackwell too. Yeah, he put up 12 points. The freshman, I just I was like, oh wow, they're actually playing some freshmen there over there too and getting some meaningful minutes. But what him and what AJ, I think I'm just really intrigued. They got height. I think John's 6'4", AJ's like 6'7". They're combo guards playing in the backcourt. It just I don't know, RJ. Does it seem like this team may be a little bit more athletic than we've seen in the last couple of years?
Absolutely. I mean, just with the additions, it's got to be. um, uh, it's one of the things we've been talking about for the longest time. It just seems that Wisconsin hasn't been, and whether they're Wisconsin kids or not, hasn't been pulling in the kind of recruits that we've seen even in the past. Like when you end up having to, and I mean, you like some of the guys, but a guy like Isaac Lindsey, who went to UNLV for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
a Group of 5 team. It's or a mid-major, I guess. Group of 5 is football. There's a reason he wasn't playing at a Power 5 team. So you bring in guys who are going to end up taking minutes away from a guy like that, and it's a good story for a state kid, but sometimes those good stories for state kids aren't necessarily the stories you need playing out if you want to be competitive in college basketball. So bringing in some athletes, both in the recruiting class and in the transfer portal, you like Wisconsin's chances of being a little more up tempo. And I think I saw it was like 81.5, whatever metric that is, to show the pace of play, which is like the highest in Wisconsin history since, and I forget the date it was, but it's looking like a team that's at least trying to pick things up a bit to be able to maximize fast breaks with some of the guys they have on the court now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, RJ, before I let you go here, give me a prediction on this game against Northwestern here. I mean, yeah, is it fair to say Northwestern's maybe playing a little bit better than what we initially expected this year? And then you've got, Badgers obviously doing what they're doing here. So, I mean, how do you see this one playing out? Is it going to be close, kind of a close type of game, do you think?
I mean, ultimately, I think we could end up seeing like a game that we saw against Northwestern in Iowa, because Northwestern's defense has been picking it up. They have, you know, their defense is in Big Ten play at least is giving up almost 26 points a game. Wisconsin is like around like just under 20, something like that. So I mean, maybe take the under. I mean, not as under as the Iowa game coming up this weekend that is opening. I think it opened at 29.5 points. So and it's already down to 28.5 for
Jeez.
Rutgers. It has the chance of being the first game, I think. I think modern history maybe of not being above 30 points or above in the over under in like modern betting history or something like that. So I mean, we're talking. I don't think we're talking about those kind of proportions, but it'll. It's like one of those games I'm looking at, and I just don't know.
Mhm.
Like I can't look at it and say, it's a game that it's just hard to look at and see an outcome where Wisconsin covers the 10.
Mhm.
I'd probably go 20-17 Wisconsin.
Ooh, and could you have imagined that score at the beginning of the year, that prediction?
No, especially with the way that things were going at Northwestern at that point in time.
Yeah.
No, it's you had two news cycles going on there. One was skyrocketing, and the other was scraping the bottom of the barrel. But here we are. We're meeting in the middle somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. All right, RJ. Always appreciate the time with you, buddy. Good stuff. Have a good rest of your week, man, and hopefully we'll be talking about a win next week for this football team.
I hope so too. So hopefully, and we will talk to you then.
You got it, buddy. There you go. There's RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, zone in Madison. We'll take our final break here. Final comments, final thoughts, all that good stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Wrapping things up here this morning. Don't forget, check out the Man Cave podcast, available wherever you listen to your podcast, presented by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. We'll have a new episode up shortly after we get off the air here. But don't forget, if you can be so kind, to give it a 5 stars and a review on there too. And a review on there too, so others can find the podcast. But we'll have another episode up later on this morning. Noted Cubbies fan, Beer Man Josh, about the Craig Counsell. I was kind of curious to hear some thoughts from Cubs fans out there. He's happy. Yes, very much so. He's a competitor and always has been. Of course, he wants to win. And if he feels like Milwaukee didn't give him the resources the last few years to be successful, and Chicago will put those pieces in place to win, I don't blame him. He's looking to win a championship for his own legacy. Just because he's the hometown kid doesn't mean he doesn't have personal goals for success. I was happy the Brewers were doing well. Keeps the season more exciting. I think he's a great manager that can relate to young guys as well as the veterans on a daily basis. So, did see there's already some saw on the X some, let's just say, some people in Milwaukee are not taking the news very well. There was I think Whitefish Bay is the baseball field named after him, and somebody already put graffiti all over it. So yeah, it's already. I was wondering if there was going to be stuff like that, and it's already happened. Don't do that. Come on, we don't do that. All right, we don't do that. So I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. I'm disappointed. It stinks. But it's a business. As much as we hate this, sports is a business. Players, coaches, it's a business. So, but I'll be curious to see what Craig Counsell has to say next week. Again, I'm not expecting anything major, mind-blowing, revealing, or anything like that. But I'm assuming, I would hope a reporter would ask, why move from the Brewers to a division rival, and just to kind of hear his response. Again, I don't think we'll learn a whole lot, but just to kind of hear what he has to say. Chris Hook, I just saw Kurt Hogg, who covers the Brewers for the Wisconsin Journal Sentinel, said that Mark Anasio mentioned last night the team's 2023 coaching staff has signed contracts to return. That tracks with what the Brewers players have been told. Many were curious of the status of pitching coach Chris Hook. They've been told he will be back. I kind of wonder, would he be? I know Buster Olney, excuse me, went through some of the names that the Brewers, according to sources, have told him, or from what he's heard, that the Brewers are looking into. He didn't mention Chris Hook, but I do wonder if Chris Hook would get a look at potentially being the manager, as Mark had texted in a little bit earlier. You almost have to promote from within, as many outside managers will want his own staff. And that was one thing too. Like, I remember we brought this up, I don't know if it was at the beginning of this year or even last year, because it seemed like, I think it was mostly under David Stearns, but it seemed like, because David Stearns was announcing the hirings of these coaches. And I know the question was kind of brought up was, did Counsell have a lot of say in his own coaches, or was that something that came from the front office? Because I would have to imagine coaches, managers would want some say in who their assistants are going to be. Like I would imagine Murphy was a Counsell pick, but it just seemed awkward, in the David Stearns era, that he was the one announcing the coaches and who was going to be back and who was not going to be back, and that sort of thing. And it could have just been, media sessions sort of thing. But I don't know. It seemed kind of weird. I would assume coaches and managers would have a say in that. But yeah, in case you missed it, Ken Rosenthal had tweeted a little bit earlier. We mentioned in the first hour. Among those Brewers considering to replace Craig Counsell, according to sources briefed on club's thinking. Bench coaches Pat Murphy, who's with the Brewers right now, Don Mattingly, former two-time manager with the Dodgers and Marlins. He's with Toronto right now. Joe Espada from Houston. Dodgers coach Clayton McCullough. Astros hitting coach Troy Snideker, and former Brewers second baseman Ricky Weeks. Ricky Weeks. Interesting. So we shall see. I don't know if it'll be any day soon, but it sounds like too that the Brewers and Matt Arnold, according to Mark Anasu yesterday, was already doing some preliminary background work just in case on some potential managerial candidates and such. So trying to get ahead of the game a little bit. I don't know how soon they'll announce a new manager. If it'll be in the next week or so, you might want to take their time and do a lot of background search and get this right. But yeah, you could tell from the comments from Mark last night that, he was a little upset. He was a little down on that. Well, here's the thing, Mark. Here's the thing now, Mark. You use it. Okay? You're annoyed. You're upset. You're hurt. You want to stay competitive? Use this as motivation. You might have to open up the checkbook a little bit more, okay, guy? So if you want to take out your frustration on the Cubs or anywhere else, take it out by winning a bunch of games by putting together a team that can go out there and be a really good team, be a dominant team. All right, Craig? Or all right, Mark? Okay? That's what you got to do. Take out your frustration by building a really good team. You and Matt Arnold. Let's do this. Okay? Use it as motivation. But I think this is going to be a very intriguing offseason with the Brewers. When you factor in Council's gone, Brandon Woodruff's probably not pitching this year. How do you approach this offseason? Plus, with Corbin Burns, maybe it's probably in his final year. Same for Willie Adames. Do you kind of still push your chips in the middle? Or, I hate to say it, do you kind of start maybe selling off some assets and bringing in the younger group, bringing in the younger guys here? It's going to be, it was already an interesting offseason. I think it just got more fascinating. Stay tuned. All right, DP and Adanets, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Stock reports. Stock reports are due. All right. Think about that. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling? We'll get to that tomorrow. Talk to you then, 6 a.m.